Okay, I think we are live. Let me adjust my camera a little bit. I can see better. Oops. Okay, it says I have one person. I'm trying to get in on the computer here so I can see the comments. I think I finally got it. Hi, Christina. I'm trying to get... Okay, I think I have a little bit of a lag. All right. Hi, Donna. So we have 2 so far. I think, yes. Okay. I have a really bad, oh. Okay, it keeps pausing my... Okay, I'm trying to keep it up on my laptop as well as my phone because I don't know of any other way to be able to read the comments because my phone is too far away. But it seems like on the laptop there's this lag. Like it's about a 20-second lag. So I guess so just be patient with me as I'm a little bit behind in answering the comments. And we'll just hang out here a few minutes and see if anybody else drops in. Great to see you too, Christina. Of course, I can't see you. You can see me, but I can't see you. So my plan is today is I am going to try to answer, shame on me, I was snacking on Doritos. I don't normally eat those. I literally was just eating them to get rid of them. But my plan is today to go over a few questions that were asked in one of my bread videos. So hopefully I can do that. So what's everybody doing today? It's a little cold here today. Not real warm. Looks like somebody dropped off. I have 3 watching. Okay. One of those is me. I think it's counting me on my laptop. Last time I went live, I had 7 or 8, so I'm hoping for at least that many. Okay, now I have 4. Go ahead and drop me a comment. Let me know you're here, who you are. Gayleen, good to have you. Cold where you are. Where are you? What state are you in? I know I went out and took a look at my garden, and there's not much going on. I planted some turnips and some parsnips, and they have sprouted. Oh, you're in Kentucky too? Yeah, it's cool here, and I think we're gonna have a couple more cold days, and then maybe it'll warm back up a little bit. But nothing much going out in the garden. Nothing much going on. Hopefully, when it warm, I guess the seeds know it's too early to poke their head out. So hopefully that'll, oh, you made the new white bread. That is the best stuff. I actually have some in the bread machine. It'll be coming off in about, I think in about 45 minutes or so, it should be done. It might be a little bit longer than that, but it's on its last rise and bake stage. The last loaf I made, I didn't check it, you know, as it was mixing. I didn't look in the bread machine, and I guess my dough was a little soft. I had a little too much liquid in there. The bread was delicious, but the bread was so soft you literally couldn't hardly pick it up. It just didn't have any strength to it. But we ate it anyway. But I'm making another loaf today. Yeah, once people get a taste of that, they just want you to keep making it and keep making it. It's really good bread. Donna, have you tried it yet? You're supposed to try to make some. Can you guys hear my wind chime out on the porch? Chiming. It's a little windy here today too. Donna's going to make the bread tomorrow. You'll have to leave a comment on the video and tell us how it turned out. It's weird. I can see myself on the phone with the live. And then when I look at the computer, you know, there's that lag. So it's like I'm watching a video of what just happened on the computer. But that's the only way I know to be able to see your comments, because otherwise I'm going to be doing this the whole time, and I don't think that would be the greatest. So, okay, so it looks like we have 6 people. Christina says, have you ever made cheesecake bread? No, I didn't know there was such a thing. I'll have to look that up. Cheesecake bread. I love cheesecake. Is it a sweet bread, like a cinnamon bun type thing? That's what it sounds like. So what's going on? Let's just talk about what's going on. Yes, Donna said cheesecake bread sounds so good. It does. Sounds really good. We'll have to look into that. So right now I have a little series going on the bread machine functions. So if you are using your bread machine and you haven't been watching those, you're going to want to try check those out, because I'm going over all of the hold on, I got distracted by a comment. So Christina said, there's your idea, and strawberry swirl cheesecake. Oh yes, I will play with that. It sounds like one of those danishes that you can buy. I love cheese danishes. So anyway, I am doing a series on the functions of the bread machine, and I've done two videos, covered 3 functions so far, and I'm going to cover all of the functions. They're not my most popular videos. They're not as popular as a bread video, making bread, but I think they're good to have, and I think people can get a lot of use out of them. So I am making those. Be sure and check those out if you haven't. It's understanding your bread machine cycles. So I think I have the French bread one recorded. I just don't have it edited yet. And then we're going to be going into the other functions which are not necessarily yeast breads, like the quick breads and different things like that. So we are going to be looking at that. It looks like I have, that number just keeps changing. I guess people popping in and out. Be sure and let me know in the comments if you're here so I can say hello. And I'll try to keep an eye on those. And we can talk about, if you have questions, I'll definitely answer your questions. So this is a good time to get your questions answered. If you have any questions, not necessarily just about bread, but about anything you think I might know. Who knows what I might know that you need to know. But I wanted to address the number one question that I get on people making bread in the bread machine. I think from just observing the comments, is people want to know, my bread rose really well, and then it sunk on the top, had a sinkhole on the top. So they're wondering what might have caused that. Now, all bread machines are a little different as far as in how they heat and bake the bread. There might be a little bit of a difference, but I have found there are usually two, maybe three things that could be the cause of the bread rising up really high, looking really beautiful, and then just falling, just caving down on top. And the number one thing that I think helps, first of all, is to use a little bit less liquid. So in the recipe, I tell you how much liquid to use. I think it's a cup and 1/3 of water in the basic bread recipe. So perhaps when you use a cup and 1/3 of water, that is too much liquid for your flour, because I mean, it looks like I lost the video here. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm sorry. It's going to make me watch an ad before I can get back to the video. All right. Okay. All right, now I'm back. Well, let's hit play. For some reason, it's not playing. Okay, now I'm back. I'm sorry. I have to remember not to let my computer go to sleep. So the number one thing that will help you if your bread is rising up too high and sinking is the amount of liquid. You can decrease the amount of liquid by 1 or 2 tablespoons. And the reason that it just can't be exact is all flour is different. And even like it depends on where the flour was grown, the type of wheat that the flour was made out of. All of these affect how much liquid that flour can absorb. So even though you bought bread flour and are using bread flour, it may not have as high a protein level as my bread flour has that I use. I use a high gluten bread flour that I buy, and I have a link in my Amazon shop link to it. I think it's a link to a 50-pound bag. I need to go out and put a link to one that is similar, that is just a 5-pound bag or so. And I'll try to do that. But all flour has different protein levels, and that affects how much liquid the flour can absorb. That's why I always encourage everybody, raise that lid on your machine when you're making your bread. Look in there. Is the flour and water and liquid mixture forming a nice solid ball? If it's not, if it's too loose, like one person said it looked like pancake mix, which they had substituted liquid milk for the powder milk, but they did not decrease the amount of water, and that meant they had too much water. So it should form a nice, good, solid ball when it's mixing. After it mixes, especially on the second stir, but after it mixes for like 5 minutes, you should have a nice ball form. If it is not, if it is too loose and soggy looking, then you need to add some flour. But you've got to be careful in adding flour, because you can get yourself in a conundrum where you just add flour, and the next thing you know, you have too much mixture in your bread pan for it to bake properly. So just add enough flour till it can form a decent ball, and then next time the best thing to do is decrease the liquid if you're having that problem with your bread sinking. Another thing you can try is, if your bread is rising up really, really high and it's caving in on the top, is to cut down on the yeast. And I give the measurement of yeast. I think it's 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. Well, not all yeast is created equal. Even though it is commercial yeast that you are using, if your yeast is fresh and new, it may be more vibrant and more strong than yeast that you've had for a while, and therefore it, like I like to say, it may be getting too happy and too excited and just rising up too high, and that could cause your bread to sink when it starts to cool. So you could decrease the yeast by maybe 1/4 or 1/8 of a teaspoon, and that would also keep your bread from rising up too high. I don't like it when my bread rises way up above the bread pan. Now this new white bread that I make that uses the applesauce, it usually always rises way up above the bread pan, and I'm okay with that. But you get a nicer structured loaf if you can do it in such a way that it doesn't rise way up above the bread pan, because I don't feel like it bakes good when that dough gets really close to the lid, I just don't think it bakes really well. And then another thing you can do if your bread is sinking on the top, is to leave it in the bread pan for a little while longer, especially if it rose up really high and it's touching the glass on the top of your lid. Just leave it in the bread pan, though you're in the bread machine. The bread machine that has most all of them have a keep warm cycle. After it bakes, it will keep warm for, I'm not sure how long, but it'll keep warm for at least 30 minutes or longer. And if you just leave it in there, then it would continue to bake. I always take it out immediately because I don't want my bread to dry out. But if I feel like the bread is not done, then I leave it in. And that can help with the sinking on the top. Okay, Dakota has a question. Says, could you have a cinnamon raisin bread recipe? I do have a cinnamon raisin bread recipe. There's a video where I make cinnamon raisin bread. And it is a really good cinnamon raisin bread. So be sure and check out that video. It should be in the bread making playlist. If I knew how, I would drop a link here. But I am not that good at this going live thing yet, but I will get there. So be sure and check out that video, Dakota, because I do have one on cinnamon raisin bread. So does anybody that happens to be online have any questions about sinking, your bread rising up too high and sinking? So basically it's those three things: the liquid, the yeast, and maybe it's not done yet. Those three things usually will solve that problem. Now, the next thing I wanted to address was I get questions on how to keep this bread fresh. So, and while I think about it, if you're here, please boop that like button. Give me a thumbs up. That really encourages YouTube to show my videos to more people. So if you are enjoying this, be sure and hit the like button. So, so how to keep this bread fresh? This bread does not have any preservatives in it. That's one thing that makes it so great. There are no preservatives. So you're going to find that it does not stay fresh. I have bought store-bought bread before, and it would never seem like 2 weeks in, and it's still not moldy or anything, but I still have questions about it. The smell might change a little bit, but it has so many preservatives in it that it doesn't seem to ever go bad. So, but you're going to find with this homemade bread that it will mold, especially if you're in a humid environment, it'll mold faster. But one thing, and I think I share this little tip on the regular white bread video, the first bread video that I have out there, is when I make the bread, especially if I'm making it ahead of time. Here lately, I can just barely keep up with the demand. But if I am making bread ahead of time, I have the time, I will put, after my bread cools completely, without slicing it, or you can slice it, either one, but you can do this without slicing it. Put it in your plastic bag, seal it up really tight, get all the air out, and seal it up really tight, and put it in the freezer for at least 24 hours. Now this does something. I don't know if it does something to the yeast or if it kills other bacterias, but freezing can kill bacteria. It doesn't necessarily kill yeast, but it can kill bacteria. And if you put that bread in the freezer for 24 hours, then you take it out and thaw it, it lasts so much longer. And I discovered this years ago, I had made bread and we were going on a trip and I froze it. And when I came back, I got it out and we noticed how fresh the bread just stayed. And so then I started doing it all the time. So that works really well. And also, I don't know where the study is, but there is a study that was done. If you freeze things like bread and rice, those high carb, starchy foods, starchy, I think, maybe is the key. If you freeze them and then thaw them, when you eat them, they do not spike your blood sugar like they would if you hadn't done that, because the freezing changes the structure of the starch, which changes how your body breaks it down. And it's actually better for you if you have frozen it. So that's another thing to think about. But you can freeze the bread. That'll help it stay fresh longer. And then the other way is to always keep as much air out of the bag you have your bread in as possible, because air is the enemy. And then you also want to keep it sealed up nice and tight. And basically keep it in a cool place. Not, you don't have to keep it in the refrigerator, but keep it away from as much humidity as you can and those types of things. So that should help as well. So there are some tips on how to keep your bread fresh. Now let me see if I have any questions. Oh, s'mores bread. Well, you can take regular white bread, Christina, and make s'mores. I've done that since I was a child. I would take a piece of white bread, slather some peanut butter on it, a few chocolate chips, and some marshmallows, and put it in the oven to just broil and toast on top. So good. I made those. I have made those for you before. Bread will keep in the freezer for a long, long time. I really don't know how long, but it will keep in the freezer for a very, very long time. Grammy Karen says, so glad to catch you live. I have used your recipes many times. Well, thank you, Grammy Karen. I'm just so happy to hear that. And Gayleen says, what about a bread box? Bread boxes are great, but you still have to seal your bread up in some kind of plastic. I would recommend some kind of plastic bag or something, because there's so much air in a bread box. You also need to get all the air away from the bread that you can. I have a bread box actually. I just don't have any counterplate space to put it, so I have it stored in the basement. But I love bread boxes. It keeps your bread out of the sunlight, and I think it keeps away some of the humidity and keeps it from getting mashed and just handled too much if you have it in the bread box. So bread boxes are great as well. Okay, now I'm going to address another question. In my original basic white bread, I use dry powdered milk. And I get questions all the time about milk, not just in that recipe, but in the other recipes. So first of all, let me address this. You can make a basic bread recipe is flour, water, and yeast. That is all you need to make bread. And if you're not using yeast, you're using sourdough. So that is basic bread. Those three ingredients, and salt. Salt is not needed to make the bread rise and do everything bread does, but salt is necessary to make it taste good. You've heard this saying, he's not worth the salt that goes in his bread. So, salt, you have to have salt in bread just to make it taste. It helps with the flavor. In other words, it's just going to taste like flour, I guess. But those are the things that you have to have. But I use milk, and in the secret bread recipe that I shared recently, I use milk, I use an egg yolk, and I use applesauce. Anytime you add anything besides flour, water, yeast, and salt, anytime you add anything else to that, you are making what is referred to as enriched bread or rich bread. So these other ingredients are made to enrich the flavor and texture of the bread. So they're enriched, but they are not necessary. So people will ask me, perhaps they can't have dairy. Then they want to know, can they leave out the powdered milk? If you can't have dairy and you're making my basic white bread recipe, you can leave the powdered milk out without making any other alterations to the recipe, and it will bake just fine. That is just going to be a lesser enriched bread. Milk has protein in it, and it adds flavor and texture to the bread, but you definitely can make it without it. And then you don't have to have an egg. Eggs make bread soft and give it a great texture, especially the egg yolk. The egg yolk makes it softer and gives it a great texture because egg yolks are naturally rich in lecithin. And lecithin is something that it's interesting if you will read the ingredient list on if you have some store-bought bread. And often they have added lecithin to the bread because that makes it softer. Let me see if there's any other. Okay, I'm not seeing any other comments. Hopefully I haven't missed anybody. So be sure and hit that like button. I see 5 likes so far, and we have 33 people. So if you like what you're seeing and you want me to, you know, do lives more often, please boop that like button. It really helps. Birthday cake bread. I think Christina has a sweet tooth. What do you guys think? I have one too. And cinnamon, I want to make more cinnamon breads. And like, I want to get into the quick breads that I'm going to be reviewing that bread cycle soon. Like banana nut bread, garden time's coming up. Zucchini bread would be really good. There's all kinds of different breads that you can make. Those are really good for breakfast and just a snack. So I will be getting to making some of those. Peppermint bread. You know, the chocolate bread would be good with some peppermint. I have a chocolate bread video. That would be good with peppermint in it, I think. You could just add it like you would chocolate chips. You could add crushed up peppermint, and that might be pretty good. It would be worth experimenting with. So let's see. So milk, we're talking about milk. So first of all, you can leave the milk out and you can use water. And somebody's made a comment and says, okay, what's going on here? Hi, Rob. We are just talking. I wanted to do a live, and I went on to one of my bread videos and I collected some questions, some frequently asked questions, and I'm going over those. But we can talk about anything. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat box and I'll try not to miss them. I'm new at this live thing. This is my second live ever. Well, actually my third one. My first one I didn't make it public. It was just me and a couple of friends, so I could learn. But you know, I'm just learning how to do this kind of thing. You can kind of need help when you do it, because you have to monitor the comments and then you got to talk about whatever it is you're talking about. But I'm small enough where I can still do it by myself. And Gayleen says, I like the light crust. Is there a problem with changing that on your bread recipes? Any of my bread recipes can use light, medium, or dark crust. Personally, the more I bake bread, I have found that the medium and dark crust just dries the bread out, especially in the KBS machine. Other bread machines, I think it works better in those. But the KBS bread machine, it just seems to dry the bread out. So I really, really like the light crust on that one. So, oh, coconut. Yes, coconut bread. We all like coconut. I'm actually going to be making a hummingbird cake for Easter. So, and it doesn't call for coconut, but because it uses banana and pineapple, I'm going to add coconut to the icing on top. So anyway, okay, we got distracted there a moment. So we were talking about milk. So let's finish the milk discussion here. So yes, you can leave the milk, the powdered milk out without making any alterations to the recipe. Then if you are using one of my recipes or any bread recipe that calls for milk, like a cup of milk, cup and a third of milk, half a cup of milk, whatever, you can swap that out for water without any problem. You can leave out the milk and you can use water. People ask, can I use other milks like almond milk, soy milk? Yes, you can use any kind of milk you want to use, or you can just use water. You do not have to use regular milk. You can use whole milk. You could use half and half. You could use skim milk, whatever kind of milk you want to use. You can use buttermilk. Any of those. You can use whatever kind of milk you want to use, or you can use water. Okay, Grammy says, I loved your cinnamon bread recipe. Thank you. I love it too. It's really good. It makes great toast too. So it's really good to have around for breakfast. Okay, so I've answered the milk questions. Let's see, how long have we been going? We've been going 29 minutes. That's good. Now, I want to try to talk about kinds of flour, because this is a big question. And people are all over, you know, the world here making bread. And like I said before, flour is different depending on what kind of wheat it was made out of and even where it was grown. So some people want to use all-purpose flour, and I'm going to tell you, all-purpose flour is not going to work great for these bread machine recipes. It might work for one you're making by hand, which you can have more control over how long you let it rise and how much you knead it and those types of things. But you really need the high protein level that is in a bread flour. And basically that's what bread flour is, a high gluten flour. So you can use different kinds of flour, but you are going to get a different result. Some people say I think a lot of people use the Pillsbury all-purpose flour for everything. And I've never used the Pillsbury all-purpose flour, but maybe it has a higher protein level. Usually somewhere on the bag you can find the protein. And I believe for bread, you want somewhere above 12% protein. I think that's right. Excuse me, I'm getting a little dry. So you can use whatever kind of flour you want, but I really, in the bread machine, recommend bread flour. If you can't find bread flour, or let's say bread flour is too expensive where you live, you can usually find vital wheat gluten, and you can buy you some gluten. And I believe it is 1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon. I'm not sure. I would have to look it up. I believe it's a tablespoon. It might be, I'm sorry, I can't remember, of wheat gluten per cup of flour. And you add this last. You don't want it to get wet before everything starts working, because the gluten turns into something else. It's a powder, but once you add it to the liquid, then it's turned into the gluten. So you would want to either add it with your dry flour or put it on top and kind of mix it around. But you can use wheat gluten if you're using a low protein flour and you don't have access to a higher protein flour. You can do that as well. And then whole wheat flour is another story altogether. So whole wheat flour still has more of the wheat intact. So the white flour we use, has really been processed and stripped and had a lot of things taken away from it, whereas the whole wheat flour doesn't. And I have a whole wheat bread recipe and video out there, and in it I warm part of the flour and water and liquid mixture before adding it to the bread machine, and this helps jumpstart the bread. It helps it to, it just helps the whole wheat flour to absorb the liquid and do all of the things and release its gluten and all of that. Okay, so Soha, I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing things. Hey, beautiful lady, I hope you're having a good day. I am. Oh, well, thank you. I'm a natural redhead fighting off gray at this age, but this is the color my hair has always been. You hear the chimes? Christine can hear my wind chimes. That's on my front porch. I just have a little wind chime from Tractor Supply, and it's really pretty. It's a rooster, I think, or a hen, but it's really cute. So, and then the last thing, I think I've talked about flour. There's probably much more that could be said about flour, but the last thing I want to talk about, at least today in this live, is water. Sometimes people want to know why they have to use filtered water. And if you have had experience using your tap water and you don't have any problems, then feel free to use your tap water straight. But most of us are on public water, and public water has chlorine and other things in it that can kill yeast, or at least make it really weak. So that's why I use filtered water, because I'm on public water. I don't know how much chlorine is in the water. It's not real strong. Like, I've never smelled the chlorine. I have lived places before where you could actually smell the chlorine in the water. So always just use the cleanest water you can. You can use distilled water if you buy it in a jug, spring water if you buy that in the store, or use filtered water, and that will ensure that your yeast doesn't die or get really weak. Okay, it looks like we have 31 people. I am so excited. That's so many more than I had the last time. That is so encouraging. And please let me know what would you like for me to talk about? Right now, my goal is to go live once a month. And hopefully, as I grow, I will go live more often. But right now, as I'm growing, I'm trying to go live once a month. Um, I think every week would be great, but I'm not there yet. I'm not ready for that yet, but hopefully we can do that soon. Um, can you, okay, I'm not sure. Okay, looks like we have a troll here. All right. So, and as I grow, I may need some monitors, and I think I have enough folks where I could definitely trust some of you to help me monitor. Gayleen says, do you put flour in fridge or freezer? Well, there are folks who, I buy flour in 50-pound bags, and I don't really keep it that long. I have kept flour for a long time. I have never had a problem with my flour going bad. I usually try to seal it airtight, either using the vacuum sealer, which is a little tricky. I need to show folks how to do that because you don't want to get the flour up in your vacuum sealer. But I have a little method that I use that works really well. Or in a jar or something. Excuse me. But some people say to freeze it before you store it, and that will kill any kind of bugs or anything that might be in the flour. So if you have problems with that, and like I said, it depends on where you live and where your flour is coming from. Everybody has different issues. You can freeze it, but I mostly just keep mine airtight in some kind of an airtight container, whether it be a vacuum bag or a container of some sort. But you don't have to. But it probably, if you're going to keep it a long time and you live in a very warm environment, then keeping it in the freezer would be a great idea. And not everybody I know uses as much flour as I do. So Donna said I was a good teacher. Thank you, Donna. She is such an encouragement to me. I love her. And I love all of my regular folks. I know some of you were here on my last live, and I just thank you so much for being here and for supporting me and making this YouTube journey exciting. My goal is to share all the knowledge I can with folks to help them make their own bread and cook wholesome food. I've just been paying attention to the things we eat now. If you were here at the beginning, you saw me move this little Doritos bag. I did not eat all of those. I only ate a couple of them, and they were just here, and I'm like, they're going old. I need a little snack. I was getting a little nervous, so I ate a few Doritos. Those are so bad because they are so full of preservatives and things that are bad for us. And the reason we have them is my family loves those big variety packs of potato chips, and they always stick Doritos in the ones that have the flavors in it they like, and then nobody wants to eat them, and then I feel bad that we're wasting food, and around and around it goes. So, but I probably would have been better off to throw them away than to eat them. But eat wholesome food. Eat food as natural as you can. I'm not saying go all organic or break the bank trying to eat natural, but the more food you can eat that you cooked from scratch, that you made, you didn't open a box, it wasn't frozen, it wasn't full, the ingredient list was not long. The more you can eat that is natural, the healthier you are going to be. Avoid GMO, avoid lots of preservatives, and anything you eat every day. One reason I make bread is we eat bread every day. And anything you eat every day, if you can make that from scratch, you will see an improvement in your health. If it is something you are eating regularly, that means all of those chemicals and all those preservatives in that thing that you're eating, you are getting most likely more than what is the safe level. So when there are preservatives in food, even bread that you buy in the store, and all the foods that you buy, like dyes and different preservatives, they are allowed to put those in food because they are at a safe level, they call it. In other words, what they're really saying is you're not going to notice right away that it's making you sick. But if you're eating that every day, and lots of it, and just consistently eating that same food every day, it will affect you. It will start to affect your body and your health. So I just encourage people to eat as healthy as possible. I don't say you can't go eat out or you can't eat preserved food, with preservatives in it. I'm just saying don't make that your standard diet, because if you do, you're going to start having blood pressure, cholesterol, weight, diabetes. All of those problems are going to creep up on you because you're getting those ingredients. I heard a story years ago. I don't know if any of you guys heard it or not, but I heard a story years ago about this man who ate microwave popcorn every day. I think he may have ate it more than once a day, but he ate it every day, and he developed some kind of serious problem. I don't know if it was cancer or some other health problem. And then he sued the popcorn maker, whoever it was that was making that microwave popcorn, because he got the illness that he did. But you see, he was eating too much of it. It was at a safe level. That means, I think that means if you eat it once in a while. Even then, I don't like that it's at a safe level. Yeah, I guess you can take in any kind of poison in small enough amounts and it's not going to hurt you right away, but do you want to do that? No. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox on eating healthy. But yes, try to eat healthy. Can you do more sprouts? But yes, I love sprouts, and it's getting garden time. So, we're going to have fresh stuff coming in here soon, but it's a little ways yet. But sprouts are good, and they're so easy. Do you have a specific sprout in mind? Like, there's all different kinds of things that you can sprout. There's bean sprouts and pea sprouts, and then there's lettuce type sprouts and all those different vegetables. So let me know if you have a specific kind of sprout that you would like to see me do. And I love to keep sprouts in the refrigerator because everyone will eat them if they're there. It's that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing, if I don't have them, nobody says, where are the sprouts? But if I have them, they're eating them. And that just makes me feel good knowing they're getting those vitamins that are in those sprouts. All right, Christina says, keep on cooking, Auntie. I will. I have to. People are hungry. People want to eat. They always want to eat. And if I don't have anything cooked, they're like, what are we supposed to eat? There's nothing to eat. And I'm like, there's a house full of food and you think there's nothing to eat. But I love to cook. Sometimes I have to stop myself. I'm like, okay, we have enough food. Don't cook anything else, because I just enjoy cooking. Okay, guys, we've been going on for 42 minutes. I think this is long enough. So I'm going to let you guys go. I am so happy you joined me today. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. And please come back next time. Watch some of my videos. I love answering questions. And I love all you guys. Thank you for joining me. Hope you guys have a great day. Now, just bear with me in the awkwardness as I try to turn this live off, because I'm not sure how to do it, but I'm going to try. God bless. Bye-bye. Gayleen is encouraging you to hit the like button. Thank you. Bye-bye, guys. Oh, great. My phone wants to